aspirants, I welcome you all to daily newspaper analysis of Shankar IAS Academy. Today's date is 23rd of January 2025. Now, before getting into the list of articles, I have an important announcement for you. It's regarding our UPSC mock interview 2024. Here you can see the interview panel. The mock interview will be conducted on 27th, 28th, 29th and 30th of January 2025. It will be conducted in offline in Chennai branch, and you can register for this particular mock interview and get tested before entering into the final interview. So with this note, let us look into the list of articles that we are going to discuss today. In this first article, we'll be discussing about illegal migrants, and in the second article, we'll be discussing in detail about Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao scheme. And in the third article, we'll be discussing about wetlands in detail. And in the fourth article, we'll be discussing about SDG and National Health Mission. So without any delay, let us get into the news article discussion. Now look at this article. This article talks about a particular statement made by our Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi. He has stated that a flagship scheme for girl child has helped to defeat biases. So what is the scheme Mr. Narendra Modi is talking about? Here he is talking about Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao scheme. So here there are two different terms, Beti Bachao. Bachao is nothing but save. Padhao means learn in Hindi. So the main concept of this particular scheme is to educate the women and to save the women child. So here comes a question, why this particular scheme was launched. See, it was launched in 2015, and the main reason behind launching this particular scheme is 2011 census. So in this 2011 census, what happened was nearly 919 girl child was there for when we compare it to 1000 boy child. So this was very lowest since the independence era. So that is why in order to curb the sex selective abortions and all, this particular scheme was adopted. So we shall see certain important key facts that are relevant to the preliminary examination in this news article discussion. As I said, the scheme was launched in January 22, 2015 by our Prime Minister Narendra Modi in Panipat, Haryana. So, as I said earlier, the main objective of this particular scheme is to increase child sex ratio and to promote girl child's education and survival and to prevent gender biased practices. So, here another question comes, why we have to put a lot of emphasis on this particular thing. See, we are living in a patriarchal society, meaning the authority or the hierarchy. In the hierarchy, the men will be the superior, and all the authority are held by men, and the family structure will be followed by a man line. So what happens here is gender equality will not be there, and the another very big issue is that women will be not allowed or established in three different spheres, which means the political sphere, the social sphere, as well as the economic sphere. So this creates a very huge gender inequality. Now the second very horrible side of this patriarchy is son preference. So what happens is women will be seen as a burden in the society, and because of that, son preference will be there a lot. So what happens is a lot of people, they will just pre-diagnose the gender of the particular child, and when they identify it is a girl child, then they will be undergoing abortion. So what happens is ultimately the child sex ratio will be going down, right? So the primary objective of this Beti Bachao Beti Padhao scheme is to prohibit that and increase the child sex ratio. Now moving on, let us see the key features of this scheme. As I said earlier, it enforces the PCPNDT Act. So here PCPNDT is nothing but the preconception and prenatal diagnostics technique. So as I said earlier, the prenatal diagnostics is nothing but identifying the gender of the particular child. So under this particular act, a lot of provisions are there that prohibits identifying the gender and all. Secondly, the scheme also generates a lot of awareness and advocacy for growth of women child, and lot of multi-sectoral intervention has already happened when it comes to this particular scheme. Now talking about the implementation of the scheme, initially 100 districts has been focused, and tri-ministerial efforts has been given. For example, Ministry of Women and Child Development, and Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, and Ministry of Education. All the three ministries has been collaborated to implement this particular scheme, and the funding is actually based on need based. Okay, so these are all certain key features of this particular scheme. Now we shall see certain achievements of the scheme. You can see that here. The CSR has been improved from 918 to 930 recently, and a lot of institutional deliveries has been increased. See, this is also a very important thing when it comes to childbirth. See, giving childbirth in an institution is very important because it will be done under experts' surveillance. So the survival of the child will be very high, and that is the reason why institutional deliveries has been promoted under the scheme. And there are a lot of improvement in girl secondary education. For example, 75.5% has been increased to 78% very recently, and antenatal care has been also increased from 61% to 80.5%, and a lot of awareness has been created when it comes to gender equality. However, there are certain challenges. For example, there is uneven implementation. For example, certain districts they focus a lot, and for certain districts the focus, even though the focus is very lot, the cultural barriers are actually reinforcing the patriarchal mindset, and there is inadequate funding and delays. And this is a very important thing that hinders the proper functioning of any kind of scheme. And there is over reliance on awareness campaigns instead of working on the results. So these are all certain challenges that you have to remember. Now I have a prelims question for you. Here three statements are given, and you have to find the correct statements using the codes given below. So the first statement says it focuses only on districts with high child sex ratio. Now second statement says it is implemented by three central ministries. Third statement says it primarily promotes health, education and survival of the girl child. So what will be the answer here? The correct answer here is option B, 2 and 3 only. First statement is actually incorrect. So these learned points. Now let us move on to the next news article discussion. Now look at this news article. This news article talks about National Health Mission. Now currently National Health Mission is in news because yesterday the Union Cabinet has reviewed this particular scheme for the past 3 years implementation, and it has informed that a lot of progress has been made when it comes to achieving the sustainable development goals. So here we have two important keywords to be discussed. Firstly, what is the sustainable development goals and what is this National Health Mission? So let us understand them from the prelims perspective. First, we shall start with what is this SDG goals. See, here you can see the 17 global goals that must be achieved before 2030, and it was adopted in 2015 by all the United Nations. So talking about how it is implemented or monitored, we have United Nations Economic and Social Council, right? So under this particular council, we have High Level Political Forum, in short called as HLPF, on sustainable development. So this particular council, what it does is reviews all the voluntary national reviews provided by all the member countries. So it is like the member countries will be providing a report about how or what kind of progress has been made when it comes to all these goals, and they meet annually in this particular high level political forum on sustainable development meeting. So in this meeting all the progress will be discussed, and particular solution for any kind of challenge will also be discussed. So we can tell that this SDG goal is like a common framework or a universal framework to fight against poverty or gender inequality and a lot of things. So I hope now you got a very basic idea about what is this SDG goal. Even before this SDG goal, we have Millennium Development Goals. We have achieved a lot of things when it comes to this Millennium Development Goal. There were 8 global goals that must be achieved before 2015. So after 2015, a lot of new area of or new arena of challenges has been raised, which needs global cooperation, and that is why this SDG goals has been brought in 2015. So this is very basics about SDG that you have to remember. Now moving on to the National Health Mission. So it was established in 2013. and it merged two different missions. Firstly, the National Rural Health Mission and the National Urban Health Mission. So the very basic aim of this particular National Health Mission is to provide accessible, affordable, quality healthcare to everyone with focus on the vulnerable people. So it operates under Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, Government of India. Now moving on, let us see the key components of National Health Mission. See, all these four things are very important things that you have to remember. You can make a note of it. It can be asked in either prelims as well as mains. So in mains, all these four keywords should be there. So the first thing is health system strengthening. Here the focus is more given on the infrastructure enhancement and the human resource development. So when it comes to human resource development, it includes training and the recruitment. And when it comes to infrastructure development, it is like equipping the hospital more better. And the second thing is the maternal and child health. Here the main or the primary focus is on reducing the maternal mortality rate and infant mortality rate, and it promotes a lot of institutional deliveries and antenatal care. And the third important component is keeping a control on both communicable and non-communicable diseases. And finally, there is a key component which is a comprehensive approach, which can be expanded as reproductive, maternal, neonatal, child and adolescent health. So it is actually a comprehensive approach to address health needs across all the life stages. So all these are the main components of National Health Mission. Apart from this, under this National Health Mission, there are certain important programs that you have to make note of. Firstly, the Janani Suraksha Yojana, it was launched in 2005. This particular scheme promotes institutional deliveries, which focuses on reducing the maternal and neonatal mortality. Second important thing is India Newborn Action Plan. It reduces preventable newborn deaths and the stillbirths. And under this particular thing, we have campaigns. And the third important scheme is this Rashtriya Bal Swasthya Karyakram. It is a particular scheme that focuses on early detection and management of diseases or disabilities in children when it comes to 0 to 18 years of age. And we have Mission Indradhanush and IMI, which is nothing but an immunization program when it comes to communicable diseases. And we have Poshan Abhiyan, which was launched in 2018. So this focuses on providing a lot of nutrition so that it will reduce the impacts caused by other deficiency related issues like stunting, wasting and etc. And we have a National Sickle Cell Anemia Elimination Mission. This was launched in 2023. For those who don't know, usually the blood cell will be in a round shape, but when it comes to sickle cell anemia, it will be in the shape of sickle. So what happens is it goes and blocks the blood vessels. So this leads to organ failure. And currently we have National Sickle Cell Anemia Elimination Mission, under which sickle cell anemia is made a primary focus. So these are all very important programs under National Health Mission that you have to remember. Now here there are certain key achievements that has been given. There is nothing new to explain, so you can just make note of all the key points and you can use it in your mains answer. Here there are certain SDG goals that has been achieved under National Health Mission. It is nothing but the goals has been mentioned. You can also go through it. Now I have a preliminary question for you. Let me read out the question. Infant mortality rate is the number of death of infants under 1 year of age per 1000 live births. See, questions like these are actually appearing in preliminary examination, where they basically ask about what is that. So remember this. And we have a second statement saying that maternal mortality rate is defined as the number of maternal deaths during a given time period per 10,000 live births during the same time period. So here the correct answer for the particular question is option A, 1 only. So because here 10,000 lives is the incorrect thing. So with these learned points, now let us move on to the next news article discussion. Now look at this article about National Green Tribunal. NGT has asked Uttar Pradesh government to declare Dhanauri water body as a wetland. Now here we have to know about two important things. What is the case? Why is it a concern? And then we have to know what is wetlands and what are all the rules governing it. So let us revise them from the prelims perspective. First, let's start with what is the case is about. See, this Jewar, it is in the outskirt of Noida city, and in this particular town, airport has been proposed and raised. So this airport construction is actually causing a habitat threat to the Dhanauri wetland due to its close proximity to the region. So there are certain significant key points when it comes to Dhanauri wetland. For example, it is housed to source crane, which is the state bird of Uttar Pradesh, and it is globally threatened as well. And it is also a critical habitat for 112 plus bird species. Also, it helps in ground recharge and flood control as well, and it is known for ecotourism. Meanwhile, it helps in livelihood and local livelihood. So these are all certain significance of that particular region. So when an airport is being raised and causing a threat to that particular region, the entity has came in between and it has given out order to the government to declare it as a wetland. Now here the development as well as ecology is kept in a balance. So you can use this as a case study in your mains answer writing. Now moving on, we shall see about what is a wetland. See, in India, we declare wetland under Wetland Conservation and Management Rules 2017. So here it says rules and not act, which means there is no particular separate act for this wetland conservation, but there are certain rules. These rules has been made under EPA, that is the Environmental Protection Act 1986. So remember this fact, and we have to know what is meant by wetland. I have actually mentioned the definition of it so that you will not get confused. UPSC actually asks question based on these very basic details. That is why I have mentioned this. So wetlands are nothing but areas of marsh, fen, peatland or water, whether natural or artificial. It is permanent or temporary with water that is stagnant or flowing, fresh, brackish or salty, and it includes even area of marine water, the depth of which at low tide does not exceed 6 meters. So everything will be covered under this term wetlands. However, there are certain exclusion, for example, the river channels and certain water bodies that has been constructed for irrigation or the industrial use, and then man-made water bodies. Those kinds of things, it is not covered under wetlands definition when it comes to India. And the very important, another important thing that you have to note is India is signatory to Ramsar Convention. Remember that point as well. Now moving on, we shall see certain key provisions of this particular rules. As I said earlier, it is notified under EPA 1986 and it applies to notified wetlands excluding man-made water bodies. And there are certain prohibited activities, for example, converting it to non-wetland areas, and dumping of a solid or hazardous waste is actually prohibited here. And certain activities are regulated and allowed. For example, sustainable agriculture and aquaculture and even ecotourism is allowed. And we have to attain permission when it comes to construction of construction or dredging of that particular water body. Moving on, we have Wetlands Authority, we have State Wetland Authority. They will identify and they will notify and monitor wetlands. And there is also integrated wetland management plans. Apart from this, the rules insist for a wetland inventory to track and ensure conservation status. And we have a wetland notification process. Here both the center as well as the state can notify a particular water body as a wetland. And we have management plans as well for the conservation and restoration of that particular water body, and for that we also encourage community participation. So these are all very important provisions of the rules that you have to remember. Now I have a preliminary question for you. Here two statements are given. Let me read out the question. Wetlands are notified by the state government under the Wetlands Conservation and Management Rules 2017. Wetlands include areas of marsh, fen, peatland or water, whether natural or artificial, permanent or temporary, with water that is static or flowing. So whenever, if you don't have an idea, whenever you see this particular second statement, you will tell it is wrong, but it is actually correct. So the correct answer for the question is option B, 1 and 2 only. So with these learned points, now let us move on to the next news article discussion. Now look at this article. As we all know, our External Affairs Minister has visited US for ovation of Mr. Donald Trump as President of US. After that ovation, he has met the Secretary of State of US and talked about illegal migrants. Now this is an issue because of two important policy highlighted by Donald Trump's administration. The first policy is this birthright citizenship. See, priorly, irrespective of the citizenship of the parents, if a particular child is given birth in US, then they will be holding citizenship by birth in USA. But currently there has been plan going to shut down or to revoke this particular birthright citizenship. If that happens, a lot of Indians who is there in USA will get affected due to the policy. Now this is the first important thing. Now the second important thing is 100% taxation on BRICS nation, which includes India. See, this 100% taxation is nothing but a particular trade is happening. For example, $100 trade has been happened from a particular country A to USA. So this import will attract 100% of this particular value, which means that whatever income is derived out of that trade, everything should be paid to the government as tax. So this 100% tax is going to be applied on BRICS country. This has been done especially to target China, but India is being part of BRICS, it will also attract this 100% tax, which is causing a concern. So they talked about these two important things, and other important thing is nearly 7.25 lakh undocumented Indians are there in USA who will face deportation if these policy gets implemented. Now we shall see what are all the impacts will be on Indian immigrants. See, the first important thing is exploitation. So when there is a policy like this which is put forth by the government, then what happens is the migrants who is already there, they will attract very low wages and will be provided with very poor working conditions. So this is the first thing, which is exploitation. Now the second impact will be the fear of deportation. There is high risk of detention and deportation due to the policy. Thirdly, there will be lack of access to education, even healthcare, and any kind of other services which is very available priorly. Now this will have impact on India-US relations as well. For example, the deportation tension will create a lot of tension between the both countries, and there will also be a diplomatic discussion for legal migration pathways as well. And talking about the impact on India, we will not get proper remittances to support our families here if this policy get implemented, and we will also have brain drain, which means loss of skilled workers from the Indian talent pool. So these are all certain important facts that you have to remember. Now I have a preliminary question for you. Which region has historically been a major source of illegal migrant to developed countries? So the correct answer here is Sub-Saharan Africa. So with this, we came to the end of the news article discussion. If you like the video, hit like, do comment, and don't forget to subscribe to Shankar IAS Academy YouTube channel. Now thank you so much for listening.